Hi guys. There is not much there is not much like there is news today, but there is not as much news today as like yesterday or the day before that, which kind of is good. I mean, it's a bit slow politically. Hi everyone. My electricity is out again. So I'm wearing a wife beater and I'm sweating profusely because it is really, really freaking hot outside. Those of you on TikTok will be hearing the generator because it is going off. So I don't know if I told you yesterday, but I figured out what the generator is. So there is a grocery store right across the front yard from me, or backyard from me, and the grocery store is called Gifts of the Sea. So it's like a seafood grocery store. They specialize in fish. And so they have like a buttload of fridges. And the generator that's outside of the supermarket is the size of like my apartment. Hi, Chad. Literally. I mean, like it's the size of like, it's probably like the size of 2 shipping containers. It is loud. It is so loud. It was on most of the night last night. And like the worst part about all of this is that basically, if I close the window, I am boiling inside of my room. So I need the window open in order to like, have some semblance of like cold air get into my apartment. But if I open the window and I have cold air, then I hear the freaking 2x shipping container sized generator trying to keep the fish from rotting all the time. So I am just potentially losing my mind. Absolutely. Hi, Frank. Hi, Morgana Cat. Hi, John. Hi, Dan. Hi, Odin. Hi, they exist. Hi, Greg. Hi, James. Hi, Martin. Hi, Prexis. Hi, Natalia. Hi, Ed. Hi, Dacian. Hi, Grumpy. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Ozzy. Hi, Karen. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Niels. Hi, General Grievous. Hi, Juju. Hi, Mark. I think that's everyone. Okay. Hi, what's in I didn't see, but hello. Hi, Reckless. Hi, Robin. Okay, so oh, hi, Max Trax. Oh, thank you, Paul. Hi, Mike. Hi, Mr. Mysterious RO. Okay, hello. Or Mr. Okay, I think it's Mysterious. Also, oh my gosh, okay, I missed Annette, I missed Thorben, I missed QR, I missed Graham. Hello. Hi, Joe. Noise pollution is a real thing. Oh, it really is. You know what's funny? Thank you, John. Thank you so much for the super sticker. You know what's super funny? So I met my neighbor that I don't know if I told you this, but like a couple of weeks ago, I could not sleep at like from like, I don't know, midnight to 5 a.m. because there was a person somewhere in my building and I couldn't figure out where, like playing music so loud. It was like in my apartment, all of their windows were open and so was mine. But even if I closed it, I still heard it. The entire building heard it. And we couldn't figure out where it was coming from because it was like so bad. And it was Russian, like pop songs from like early 2000s. It was so bad. And then at some point, like at 6 a.m., I went to Walk City because I was just like, I'm going to go walk my dog because, I mean, what else am I going to do right now? Like, I can't sleep. I'm going to try to figure out where this noise is coming from. Like, I called the cops because it was just like, first of all, it's illegal to play Russian music in public settings. And second of all, like, it was just like, come on. I mean, it's been like since midnight to 6 a.m. Are you joking? And it was super loud and no one could figure out where it was from because I could hear it when I was at home, but then I would go downstairs and it would like get less loud. And so I was walking Cine, and then I heard this person who was like listening to this music screaming the lyrics of the song. One second. Dacian, yes, we're going to be talking about the news, but most of the people here come here every night and we always catch up. And the first about 15 minutes, we usually talk about random things that happened to me in Ukraine. If you're not interested in that, you can leave. Anyways, so I literally, like, another thing I'm going to say is that, like, I feel like I get these comments because I'm a woman and no one, and most men, especially men who haven't been here, feel like they can be condescending and misogynistic. Here's the thing. I talk about Ukraine because it's my country and I want people to know the news, but I'm also a person. And I don't appreciate people being condescending and telling me what to do or questioning what I do, because you can just leave. Anyways, here is so what was I saying? Yeah, so it was like Russian music. Russian music is illegal to play in Ukraine in public settings, if you didn't know. And so then I was outside and I heard this person like scream the lyrics of this like early 2000s like really, really bad song. And I was like, oh my God, like what is going on with this person? And then they finished their music moment with hi Crazy Cat, and they finished their little like music moment with Teresa Maria from Eurovision, like the Ukraine entry, and I thought it was like, what? So also, hi, thought you had stopped posting and had not seen your posts for a couple of months. No, I haven't stopped posting ever. It's just we're being shadow banned. So if you want to see more of my posts, you need to interact with some of my videos and like put me up in search. I have a video about it. Like it's my latest video. It's from yesterday. But so yeah, so basically this person was like screaming these lyrics, and it's like this really, 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 really bad. It's like a really, really bad, also, let me just address something. Dacian, no, but it's like I saw that you were having a conflict with one of my moderators before the live even started. So there was already a misunderstanding. And then when I started talking, your question was, so are we talking about the title topic? I mean, clearly the title topic is there. So it's not like I called the live, Hungary is being, there is like movement to strip Hungary of its right to vote, and then it would just be a talking live. And also it just started and I was just saying hi to everybody. So reasonably, that's not a question. And how was it misogynistic? Because I don't think if you were to come into a live of a dude and you would hear them talking to their audience, you'd be like, so are we talking about the subject? Because usually I see this coming only from men that come here for the first time, and they feel like it's not disrespectful to talk to a person like that because they're just a woman. So at this point, either have some respect and don't be condescending, and then complain about your condescending question being met with the same tone, or I don't know, leave. Anyways, I'm not paying any more attention to this because it's just like all you had to do was apologize, but clearly too much ego there, because you know very well how that came out and how condescending that was. Respect is a two-way street. Yeah, I don't see, well, you were not respectful to me the first time that you met me by telling me, by questioning what I'm doing in my live with my time on my channel. So how am I going to respect you? It is a two-way street. You're correct. And you came in here without it. So why am I supposed to give you respect? I'm already giving you more time than I should. Anyways, hello. So yeah, so anyways, then I found out that this man who was screaming this like early 2000 song, and like, for those of you who know, who lived in Ukraine, you know who Miladze is. The song was Drugaya Semya. So you can only imagine how lovely it was listening to that from midnight on repeat. It was the same song on repeat, by the way. So anyways, I find out from my downstairs neighbor that it's his neighbor to the left. And he's like, yeah, so he's been drinking a lot. And like, you know, like he was living with his mom and then his mom moved out. And so he's been like drinking a lot and like whatever. And he's like, I'm just going to message him and tell him to stop doing that because I mean, I passed out, so I didn't hear it. But yeah, I believe it. So anyways, fast forward to today. It's been like a month and a half or so. I don't know, maybe like a month. I lost count. And I'm standing at a grocery store. I'm standing at a grocery store near my apartment, and that was today, and electricity goes off, and so we're all like trying to pay, but like the terminals aren't working. They're reloading them, they're hooking them up to the generator, so we're standing there, and it's like me, this guy with a dog that looks like Patron, and also I see your question, the bug. I'll answer it in 2 seconds. And they're like talking, and he's like, oh yeah, the blackouts. And I was like, yeah, those are great because I live in a building that's right in front of that, like, generator that equals literally 2 shipping containers. And so that thing is really loud and I can't sleep. And so he goes, oh my God, yeah, I couldn't sleep last night at all. That was so loud. Oh my gosh. And he's like really flamboyant. And so he's like complaining about it so bad. And then, and he's like, we live in the same building. Which floor are you at? And I was like, oh, I'm 15. And he's like, oh, I'm 14. And I'm like, oh, you're Dima's neighbor. And he's like, yeah, how did you know? And I really, like, I had this urge to start screaming that song at the top of my lungs. But instead I said, oh, I just know he has a neighbor on 14th floor with a dog that looks like Patron. But you know what? That little man complaining about not being able to sleep because of a fucking generator when he put the entire building through 6 hours of Valery Mеладзе on repeat is like, man, I don't feel bad for you. I wish that generator was in your apartment, making noise in your apartment for 6 hours so you would know how it feels. Anyways, I'm not petty or anything, Okay, so there was, okay, have you ever worked for the Kyiv Independent? No, I didn't. My really good friend Masha does. She runs their TikTok, and if you watch Kyiv Independent's TikTok, then you will see her. She's great. I did not work with Kyiv Independent. In fact, I actually declined an offer to work with them a couple of months ago because I did not like the way that they handled a scandal. And I mean, like, not like, oh, it was a scandal, like drama. It was just more of like, instead of apologizing, they sort of gaslit their viewers. And I didn't like that. They like couldn't own up to like doing something wrong. Since then, I've learned that it was more of just like, a lot of things went wrong and then they just didn't know how to get out of it. And then the people who founded it sort of like went on Twitter and wrote and like stood up by the opinion of anyways, it was like a misunderstanding sort of, but still I wasn't like too happy. But, ever since Masha has been working there, I kind of like, I mean, I understand the dynamic inside a little more, and I see how, sort of how that could have happened and how that wasn't meant maliciously. It was just more of like inexperience in handling public, it was more of like them being inexperienced in handling public outlash and like trying to solve it like rapidly and emotionally sort of. So I think they're good. Out of all publications in Ukraine, they're probably the best out of those that speak English. I mean, there are certain things that I don't like that I would like to like change, right? But it's just because I think as someone who like lived in the West for so long, there are certain like communication things that are missing and context things that are missing. But that's like that with every publication in Ukraine. I did one episode of a show with Kyiv Post, however, and I quit right after that one episode because they wanted me to say things online and stand up for people that I don't respect. And I don't respect them because I consider them sellout propagandists. And basically, my morality was put to test, and I wasn't ever going to go against my principles and morals and stand up for something for a job. So I quit that. Right now, and for a while now, I've been working with United 24, and I am soon starting a new position at a different media, and I will tell you what media it is once the contract is signed, which it's supposed to be this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. I'm not sure yet, but I'm kind of excited because it's not only an on-camera role, it's also a behind the camera sort of like producer role where I'll be helping them with kind of build a bridge with the Western world and sort of like helping them, I'll be helping them become more accessible to the Western world and sort of, have more understanding of how to work with an English speaking audience and how to approach the English speaking audience. So I'm actually very, very, very excited. Бігус? Ні, не бігус. Anyways, я люблю проекти, які дуже погано вдаються, і я люблю їх розрулювати, тому бігус не проект, який погано вдається. Побачите. Ви, напевно, навіть про нього не чули, тому що це англомовний проект. І він взагалі, він провалився дуже сильно, і я хочу, щоб він не провалився. So it's basically like, it was a media, a lot of money was invested in it. It like flopped, and it didn't flop because the money didn't go where it was supposed to. It's because they didn't necessarily know what they were doing. Not like flopped. I'm not going to call it flopped. I'm just going to say that they're not doing as well as they could be doing with all of the investments that they have, because they're just kind of like lost in what they're supposed to do. And they also outsourced a lot of work and talent and stuff. And so it's just like not, it's not as cohesive as it should be. Also, thank you so much, Niels, and thank you so much, John, for all the gifted memberships to my channel. I really, really, really appreciate it. So it's Yulia to Newsmax. No, I mean, Newsmax is like, listen, we're in the realm of Ukraine here, okay? I have been busy here. Nice to see your videos. How are things going on the front lines? Well, there is not much coming out of the front lines except for Crimea. Ukraine is rocking it in Crimea. And I don't know if you have been following, but Ukraine has destroyed a lot of Russian logistics in Crimea, a lot of Russian warehouses in Crimea, Russian air defense systems in Crimea, and Ukraine also destroyed a ferry crossing in Crimea that was used for military logistics. So that's fantastic as well. As to everything else, I think we've caught up on everything we could have caught up on. Oh, hi, Sakai. Things going reasonably well. Well, behind the scenes, actually, things are not going well. I'm incredibly stressed. The past 2 weeks have been hell. I just don't necessarily want to I don't know. I don't quite want to talk about it. It's the time where I need to renew my lease in New York. I will just give you a rundown and then we'll move on from it. But it's the time where I need to renew my lease in New York, and I have to do it because I have to have a lease in New York to my name because green card, like if I'm not living in the country, at the border, they can stop me and be like, oh, so you don't have a lease, you don't have anything tying you here, and you have been out of the country for 8 months or however long it's going to be in September. Why do you need a green card, right? Like they always want to take it away from you and stuff like that. And so I need to have the lease. Also, Vasily lives there, and I can't really I feel a sense of responsibility over him. And he's been unemployed for the past couple of months. And he, has to be less than a year, but also you have to have things tying you to the United States. You can just come and go basically. Well, at least in this position, I can't because there are certain things that changed in my private life and stuff, which is exactly why I don't, because I feel like one explanation leads to another explanation leads to more questions and stuff like that. But basically I almost figured it out. I almost have everything I need, but not quite. And in my particular position, I have to have that lease. Also, there is Vasil there, and also there is I have like 13 years worth of things in there. A lot of them are valuable. And what I'm planning on doing is going back in September. So what I'm going to do probably is put like people, sublessors, sublease, whatever, sublessors, yes, in every room, including mine. But I need to go there in September. And, I have so many. Could you get an American citizenship? Not yet. Basically, like, I have to go and clean out my room and like take out valuables, bring some valuables with me, because I like my room is fully my stuff, right? Like, I can't put someone in there while there is like, and also the entire apartment is my stuff, to be fair. But it's just like my personal things and a lot of documents and paperwork and stuff like that. It's just like, I can't like, and I cannot go to the US until September. So in September, I'm planning on like selling a couple of things. I'm planning on putting roommates in there, but that can only happen if I can sign this lease by Friday. And for that, I need to, yeah. Graham, holy shit, you're covering the cost of a New York plus your place in Ukraine, Youngs. Yeah, I mean, why do you think I'm literally broke all the time? And it's sort of like, anyways, the thing is, like, if you followed me this entire time, you would know the situation. But it's just too long of a situation to explain. And I'm in the same predicament that I was last year, but I like have it way more figured out this year than I did last year, but still not fully. Anyways, I've had and even native speaker. I've had just like, it's been like a hell of past 2 weeks. And I don't necessarily, I didn't want to talk about it online because it's just, I mean, like, what's going to change, right? And again, it's like, you say one thing, then more questions appear, then you have to answer more questions. And yeah, it's just, it's like, it's a lot going on. Also, Maria, yes, I will let you know when I'm in New York. And here is a funny story. Here's a funny story. So I went to Nova Poshta today to send the packages with like the sweatshirts and T-shirts and stuff. And the sweatshirts and T-shirts and stuff. And I went to Nova Poshta and I was like, hey, I need to send this to the United States. And they're like, we don't ship to the United States. And I was like, oh, and then I realized that Ukrposhta does. And I had to go to Ukrposhta, and Ukrposhta is not near my house. It's like further, and it's also like up the highway. So anyways, I'll go tomorrow. I have, the box, and I packed these things so funny because I keep boxes now just in case I need to send things like from giveaways and from raffles and stuff. So I had this, which this is from like a little container for Cine food that I have and for Cine treats. And it actually has handles and it's reusable. Literally the thing here says, this handle packaging is developed to replace a plastic bag. Please reuse this box. It's actually very convenient. But anyways, this one's for Chad. The one underneath it is for Maria, and another one is for Martin, even though I don't know if he sent me his address yet, but I'll look on Discord. And so I'm gonna go to Ukrposhta tomorrow and send them. I should have remembered that Nova Poshta doesn't do it because Anastasia always uses Ukrposhta, but I thought maybe she just prefers Ukrposhta for international shipping. But anyways, Cine has bunnies for treats. Well, no, it's a bunny. It's a scoop that has a bunny. And I love that scoop because so it came with the container, but it's a perfect size for a portion of her food. And I love it because I can scoop her food with it. But yes, so I absolutely love these containers. They're like my favorite. And there was like, I bought them in bulk when I first moved here because there was like a huge sale going on this one website. And I also have a code for like 30% off because my friend works at a company that works with them. And so she gave me their like corporate code. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't not buy them because they're not like cheap. They're more expensive than like normal containers, but I got them basically for the price of like a regular, like Tupperware thing that you would buy at any store, because I had the 30 off and they were already on sale. So anyways, I bought a whole like set of them, and I've been loving them. Anyways, okay, I think it's time to start the news. Our dog is more interested in bunny and deposits than the bunny. Yeah, I mean, Cindy is not interested in bunnies either. I mean, I fully get that. I mean, she's never seen bunny deposits, but also Cindy like doesn't necessarily, thankfully, eat feces. So, full reporting in AFU activities, successes and failures is a double-edged sword. People need encouragement, but sometimes better to preserve OPSEC. Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. Like, I think there are a lot of reporters online, and there are a lot of like YouTube channels that like to like give you the scoop of the cool information that you haven't heard before, because like, ooh, like, no one else knows this, and I'm telling you. And it's like, I don't like that, because the reason why a lot of other people are not reporting on it is not necessarily because they don't know that, but because you shouldn't be reporting on it. And my issue with a lot of YouTube channels that talk about the war in Ukraine is that, especially like the battlefield analysis ones, is that they kind of post a lot of unverified information. They use a lot of information that they've seen online on like deep state and stuff like that should be OPSEC. They say a lot of things as like as confirmed when they're not. Anyways, so yes, it's always better to say less than to say more, because you never know what's going to screw with OPSEC. Okay, President Zelensky arrived in the Philippines, and for the first time in the history of bilateral relations, met with the country's president, Ferdinand Marcos. According to the Ukrainian leader, Ukraine intends to open an embassy in Manila this year to strengthen bilateral cooperation. We discussed the inaugural Global Peace Summit and the importance of representing the countries of Southeast Asia at it. We appreciate that the Philippines will participate in the summit, added the president. This is good because, like, we don't necessarily have a lot of partnerships in Asia in general. And so Asia and Africa are sort of like our very, very failed avenues. And like we have been trying to establish a better relationship with them in the past 2 years, like on steroids, basically. And it's been paying off. It's been seeing some successes, but at the same time, like, it's very good to see that there is going to be an embassy in Manila, because that's a first. It's really good to see that these relationships are being established and that it's taking priority, because in reality, Russia is winning the disinformation war, in their case, in Asia and a large part of Africa, because Russia dominates that part of the world in terms of successful relationships, political relationships. Also, Armin, hi. For those of you who are not here all the time and don't know, so Armin is a quote guy, and he writes a quote every single time that he watches live, and they're always very good quotes. He knows a lot of quotes. And so here's the quote today, and I'm going to read it. Constitutions have to be written on hearts, not just paper. Margaret Thatcher. Many regimes of the former Eastern Bloc reformed on paper, but never truly reformed. Men like Orban are proof of this. Of course he is. Hi, Brian. Of course he's proof of that. Orban is like... Orban is a Putin shill. Also, like, I've drawn this parallel before, but I want to give this parallel to more of you, right? If you look at Yanukovych, Trump, and Orban, you will see that it's the same type of guy, because usually Putin chooses a particular type of guy to install in a government somewhere. It's a very egomaniacal, full of themselves person, is not very smart. Because if they're too smart, at some point, they're going to want to separate and go their own way. But if they're not too smart, then they're going to need Putin constantly to stay where they are. Lukashenko, yes, but Lukashenko is not nearly as dumb as the rest of them. Lukashenko did his own thing became a dictator, and then he allied himself. Lukashenko was a little smarter, so he's sort of like, he's like, the top of he's like a bit of a different, he's a level up, like there are levels to the dummies, right? And Lukashenko is like as at the top of it as you can go. Russian military motorcycles, Mad Max, are a bad idea, according to Forbes. In an attempt to make up for the loss of about 15,000 armored vehicles during the large-scale war in Ukraine, Russia began equipping new assault groups with inexpensive civilian vehicles. At first, these were Chinese-made all-terrain vehicles, such as golf carts. Then, motorcycles from China and Belarus, the publication writes. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago where I told you that Russians were doing assault missions on motorcycles, where they would literally storm Ukrainian trenches on motorcycles. Naturally, in their original configurations, these light vehicles are extremely vulnerable to Ukrainian artillery, missiles, and drones. When Russian motorized assault groups first deployed this spring, they were knocked in the teeth, according to the Ukrainian 79th Airborne Assault Brigade, the article says. That's why the Russians reinforced the armor of the motorcycles. Observers compare these motorcycles to those in the post-apocalyptic film series Mad Max. The problem, of course, is that motorcycles cannot cope with a large amount of armor without losing mobility, analysts note. So yeah, it's a very dumb idea all around, but to be honest, it kind of does like if you are in a trench and there is an assault operation and you are on your feet, but the other guys are using motorcycles, it is overwhelming. It is really, really overwhelming. So on the one hand, dumbest idea ever, of course, not very smart and not very effective. But on the other hand, it did startle Ukrainians for a while because we were like, what is happening here, right? And it was something unexpected, and it was overwhelming. But at the end of the day, armoring motorcycles is as stupid as it gets, because sure, you might not be able to destroy the motorcycle as easily, but the person on it still doesn't have an armored head, do they? Anyways. Also, oh my gosh, I did not realize how much this noise in the background would bother me when I'm doing a live, but oh my gosh, you guys on YouTube are lucky because this mic does not pick up that noise, but you on TikTok likely hear it, and oh my god, it is driving me nuts. You can fire well from a motorcycle, nearly impossible. Yes. Russians licking eggs to try to get salmonella has even made it onto a couple of radio stations in Florida I listened to. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Maybe I should build a Cape cage on my mobility scooter. Yeah, why not? Sorry, you know what my tinnitus is like. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's awful. I mean, that must be awful. Grumpy has tinnitus as well. You're right. You know what? I didn't think about it. I mean, like, I'm very, like, I have a lot of audio sensory things that, like, I'm really sensitive to certain noises. Like, I can't do the noise of a bathroom vent. Like, I literally get irrationally angry, and I can't. There are quite a few noises like that. This one doesn't bother me as much. Like, it doesn't drive me nuts. But I definitely can't sleep with it. It's like driving me crazy because I'm talking and I'm doing a live, but I'm very sensitive to a lot of noises. And this one, for some reason, is not like bugging me as much. But I guess like, I think that for someone who has severe ADHD and quite a few other neurodivergencies, if I had tinnitus, I would probably actually just like, I don't know what I would do because like, I feel like that would be the noise that would drive me crazy, like crazier than in regular cases, because I already have auditory processing issues in some ways. Back in the 60s, the French designed a weird-ass motorcycle with a 76mm cannon mounted in the sidecar. Oh man, that sounds like a great idea. Hi, Darlene. Russia-China gas pipeline deal stalled by Beijing's price demands. Russia's efforts to strike a major gas pipeline deal with China have stalled over what Moscow says are unreasonable demands. Every demand for Moscow is always an unreasonable demand from Beijing on price and volumes. 3 people familiar with the matter said Beijing's tough stance on the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline underscores how Russia's invasion of Ukraine has left President Vladimir Putin increasingly reliant on Chinese leadership for economic support. People familiar with the matter said China had asked for a price close to Russia's heavily subsidized domestic prices and was only committing to buying a fraction of the pipeline's planned annual capacity of 50 billion cubic meters. So here's the thing. It's not like China is the good guy here, but China, first of all, does not necessarily need the Russian gas. Second of all, thank you, Foodie. I really appreciate that. Second of all, China doesn't want to get sanctioned, so they don't necessarily want to buy from Russia. They don't necessarily want to buy things from Russia that are not super. Sorry, they don't want to buy things from Russia unless they're absolutely vital or they're from a very or Russia is offering them an unreasonably good deal. Russia doesn't want to offer an unreasonably good deal because it's unreasonable. And then China's like, well, I mean, then we're not going to do it because they don't need it that bad. Russia needs it more than China needs it. That's all. Intro says you lived in NYC. Did the Russian community here treat you okay? I don't have any Russian friends in New York, and I don't have a Russian community, nor do I ever go into one. And I don't know. They didn't treat me any sort of way because I just always stayed away from them. Before the full-scale invasion, I just had no interest in the Russian community. I don't live anywhere near any Eastern European communities. I live in Williamsburg, and they didn't necessarily have a chance to treat me anyway because, again, until the full-scale invasion, had no interest in them. After the full-scale invasion, avoid them at all cost. But also, no, Russians genuinely always are I only have negative experiences with Russians, with the few Russians I had to deal with in New York. So yeah, they already supply part for manufacturing missiles to Russia and North Korea. Both those countries do not produce electronic parts. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like Russia needs China way more than China needs Russia. So, and China doesn't want to be sanctioned because most of China's sales or purchases come from the United States. So it is much more of a hit to their economy to lose the US than it is to lose Russia. So they're not going to risk being sanctioned and losing that profit over a deal with Russia unless the deal is just exceptionally good. The Netherlands allowed Ukraine to use 24 of its F-16s to carry out strikes on Russian territory, the country's defense minister reported. The F-16s that are not here yet, but in the future they will be. The president's office reported that 107 countries and organizations have confirmed their participation in the upcoming summit on peace for Ukraine in Switzerland at this time. That's good. I mean, there is not much of a comment on that, but, Biden's not going. Kamala Harris and I think Anthony Blinken is, which is not great because that shows Putin that, it's not Biden's priority, and that's not good. That's not a good move, at least in my opinion. But sending Blinken is good. I just have to wonder when the damn planes are going to be there. Well, again, this is something that I can't necessarily talk about because OPSEC. Yulia, do you know Le Crocodile restaurant in the Wyeth Hotel in Williamsburg? So the Wyeth Hotel, I've been there, but no, I don't know the restaurant. I haven't really spent a lot of time at the Wyeth Hotel, but it is a nice hotel. Blinken is way better than Jake Sullivan. So I have an incredibly horrendous opinion on Jake Sullivan. And it's not because of his response to Ukraine. It's because of looking at his national security advisory in all administrations. If you look at all of the horrendous decisions that were reached by presidents under his advisory, you will see why I absolutely just despise him. First of all, his The drone strike, Obama's drone strike, Jake Sullivan. Obama's response to Ukraine, Jake Sullivan. Biden stretching the time as much as he can on giving Ukraine the weapons we were asking for, Jake Sullivan. Look at his track record. Like, in fact, look him up and go deeper into his career, and you will be very understanding of why I absolutely cannot stand this man and think that he is some of the worst staff at the White House. Receiving ATACMS ballistic missiles from the U.S. with a range of 300 kilometers enables Ukraine to target any location in Russian-occupied Crimea effectively, reports The Economist. What? Ukraine is conducting a successful campaign to destroy military targets in Crimea. Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. forces in Europe and NATO's senior advisor on logistics, noted that Ukrainians are systematically working to make Ukraine uninhabitable for Russian troops. Putin has viewed Crimea, connected to the mainland by the Kerch Bridge since 2018, as an unsinkable aircraft carrier, crucial for dominating southern Ukraine, blocking essential grain exports and ensuring a steady flow of resources to dislodge Ukraine from Donbas. The Kremlin's heavy investment in military infrastructure in Crimea is now under threat. Yeah, so sad. Sorry. Analysts highlight that Crimea is a weak spot for Russia due to its extensive defensive requirements, making it a strategic target for Ukraine to pressure Putin into future concessions, says British strategist Lawrence Friedman. Nico Lange, a former advisor to the German Defense Ministry, concurs, stating that Ukraine aims to turn Crimea from an asset into a liability for Putin by isolating it and pushing Russian forces away from southern Ukraine. Ukraine's use of ATACMS and sophisticated drones is systematically weakening Russian air defense in Crimea, hitting air bases and targeting critical logistical and economic sites. This focus may also be in preparation for the arrival of F-16 fighter jets from Europe, Friedman suggests. Experts note that the Russian S-400 anti-aircraft system has proven ineffective, as demonstrated by recent Ukrainian attacks in Crimea. With intelligence support from Kyiv's allies, Ukraine can monitor movements in Crimea closely. The combination of ATACMS and drones places every part of the peninsula within range, including time-sensitive targets like convoys. So Ukraine has been really, that's the thing. I think the best way to explain it is that we want to turn Crimea from an asset to a liability, and we've been doing that very, very well. We've been basically making them blind in Crimea. Their air defense in Crimea is practically inexistent. They have moved their fleet from Crimea to Novorossiysk because we keep sinking their ships. They thought that their ships were untouchable. They thought that Ukraine doesn't have the range to touch Crimea. Ukraine has been doing a lot of reconnaissance operations and a lot of assault operations on Crimea, and there have been bases that are on fire there all the time. Ukraine has been doing a fantastic job, in fact, I think I'm getting the Matthew Whitmore comment out of context because it was probably something beforehand and I just got distracted because ADHD. But yes, we've been doing a fantastic job at accomplishing that. Russia is no longer Ukraine wants Crimea to be the Achilles heel for Russia, because it is. If Ukraine manages to push Russians out of Crimea, their front line is going to start collapsing, because it's also a morale thing. Crimea is the holy grail of Russia. It's like they took Crimea came back home, yada, 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 right? If Ukrainians manage to take Crimea, from a strategic standpoint, it is easier than returning Donbas. But for a standpoint of Russians, that is a major blow. And that is a major blow to morale, that is a major blow to confidence, and that is something that literally will just destroy them from within. Both the people and just the public perception, also because of how much importance Putin places on Crimea and Russians place on Crimea. It is literally kind of like the dragon's heart, you know? So there you have it. Do you believe this news because you read it or because it makes sense? No, I believe this news because it makes sense, and also because, you know, I work with analysts, and I live in this country, and I kind of know a thing or two about the military and the battlefield and warfare and history and politics. Yeah. Why Emma? Or Emma's lover. I'm sorry. What? You weren't original enough to have your own name? You had to deem yourself someone else's lover? Anyways. Oh, imagine your biggest accomplishment in life. Imagine your biggest accomplishment in life referring to yourself as someone else's lover because your name is not interesting enough. Anyways, that's a lovely troll on TikTok. Okay. Who's Emma? I don't know. Lieutenant General Mick Ryan, former ADF from Down Under, is very well informed on Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of people that are very, very well informed in Ukraine. I'll look him up. Matthew, so nothing you can point to specifically. I don't know. Okay, so there is a Hi, Truthful. There is a discussion happening between Matthew and Random Dad on YouTube, and it's basically about Ben Hodges. And there is I think there is an argument about it. So yeah, Ben Hodges is very positive. He is quite of a hype man. A lot of the predictions. So the reason why it seems like all of his predictions don't pan out is because we just hear a lot of his predictions because he is very he's incredibly pro-Ukrainian in this situation, and he is much pushing for Ukraine aid and stuff like that. So we hear his quotes and we hear his analysis much more often than we do other generals. So that's why it seems like he is wrong more times than everyone else. A lot of Western generals and Western analysts are either way too optimistic or way too pessimistic. So yeah, I would agree with it. He is a Ukraine hype man, but I wouldn't agree with the fact that all of his predictions are wrong. I would agree that some of his predictions are wrong for most Western people or Western experts who predict things about Ukraine because they don't count in morale. They don't count in Ukrainians making up new technology and stuff. They don't count in how evil Russia is. They don't count in, Western deliveries failing and stuff like that. But usually when he talks about analysis, he's quite on point. His analysis of the Crimea situation, along with 7 other names that were on that list, is pretty accurate and pretty to the T. So yeah. Thank you, David. Also, you guys, and I hate doing this, but I'm going to try and make it a habit to remind everyone this every time I do a live, so I'm sorry. But if you would like to support my work and you enjoy my journalism, I do this full time. I'm also working in other projects, and obviously doing lives is not just the only thing that I do. But if you would like to support my work and you enjoy coming here and listening to the news, and you enjoy, how I do the news, and you enjoy, getting your news from me, and you have the ability to subscribe to either the TikTok live feature and become a member of TikTok lives, or to the membership feature on YouTube or Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal, I would be incredibly grateful. And that means a lot and goes a very long way, helps me pay my bills, and also helps me helps me better the content that I deliver and stuff. So yes, that is that. And I'm really bad at, doing these things, because even though I do a job and I prepare for these, and videos neither on TikTok nor on YouTube really pay me anything because my RPM is, I always feel like this is not justified. But yes, if you are able to subscribe to the membership on YouTube or Patreon, or membership to TikTok lives over here, it goes a very long way. It's super, super appreciated. Also, there is now a function where you can gift memberships to other people on TikTok, which I didn't know about until recently when it was done, but they now have the same thing as YouTube does. So there is that. And yeah, So thank you. And also we have a Discord, and the link to that Discord is somewhere in the chat, and I will ask Ozzy to repost it again so I can put it on the screen. But yes, we have a Discord, and Discord notifies you every time there is a video or live or something happens on YouTube, and in general shows you videos of other creators about Ukraine. There are lots of discussions going on there. So yes. Okay. Air defense strike in Belgorod region, a recent one. Oh, thank you, Morgana Cat, for becoming a member of the YouTube channel. I really do appreciate that. A video shows the aftermath of a strike on the S-300, S-400 air defense system in the Belgorod region. The attack was carried out using HIMARS anti-aircraft missile system on June 1st/2nd of 2024. So I love watching Russia burn. It's very nice. It's a beautiful thing. Look at that. Also, thank you, Jason. Thank you. I will check after the live. Thank you so much. No, my gosh, Paul, no worries. That's the thing. It's like if you have the opportunity to. The Czech Republic will provide financial assistance to Ukrainians who wish to return to Ukraine. Ukrainian refugees with temporary protection status in the Czech Republic can now benefit from state assistance for voluntary return. The Ministry of Internal Affairs is launching a pilot project to cover bus tickets and ambulance transport for the sick. This project will run from June to November, according to Radio Prague International. The Czech Republic will fund bus tickets for up to 400 people and ambulance transport for up to 30 patients. The government approved the voluntary return concept in mid-May, allocating 5.5 million crowns for the program. Kronas, sorry. Not crowns, kronas, but whoever translated this. Awful. Refugees can only use one paid return option. As of April, around 339,000 Ukrainian citizens were living in the Czech Republic, having fled the Russian invasion. I mean, this is interesting because Ukrainian workers do contribute to the economy, and it's interesting. I've never seen such a decision done from an economic standpoint, because it doesn't necessarily benefit the Czech Republic, because it doesn't really... Ukrainians don't necessarily sit on welfare. Most Ukrainians get jobs and start working. That's like a real statistic. So it's interesting that they would do that, but it's also only 400 people. So it does look like less of an economic decision and more of a like, hey, if you've been wanting to come back home, but you can't because you don't know what you're going to do for work and stuff like that, here we'll like help you do that, which is kind of nice. But I also wonder like how they're going to go about the fact that these people likely don't have housing, and the reason why they're not moving back is not necessarily because they can't afford the ticket back, but likely because they don't know if they're going to be able to find a job, because at this point they have a job in Czechia. The war is still going on. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting concept. Like, I'm sure it's done with like the best intentions in mind, but I'm very curious to see how that's gonna go. Volodymyr Zelensky will participate in the G7 summit in Italy on June 13th, 15th, either online or in person, according to his press secretary, Serhiy Nikiforov. The G7 are our main partners. We will discuss key topics of our relations, including bilateral dialogues with the states of the Big Seven, Nikiforov said on the telethon. Nikiforov mentioned that Zelensky plans to discuss with the United States, Ukraine's main defense partner, further defense support, developing a coalition for Western fighter jets, and accelerating the supply of F-16s. Strengthening Ukrainian air defense with additional systems and missiles will also be a key topic. Zelensky has already discussed with Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin at the Shangri-La conference in Singapore. Active work is underway to ensure air defense systems arrive in Ukraine. We expect positive public decisions soon, Nikiforov summarized. I mean, Germany is giving us a Patriot. Romania is giving us an air defense system that they're not naming. obviously due to OPSEC, but also it's oh, hi Otanbot. Oh my gosh, haven't seen you in so long. Good to see you. But yeah, it's yeah. One sec. I've been having this issue where I keep accidentally unplugging my microphone. Give me one moment. I want to make sure. Yeah, there we have it. There we have it. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely being something is being done about the air defense, and we're definitely moving in the right direction, because there have already been quite a few countries that have pledged to give us air defense complexes, and I think that they're going to bring the most change to places like Odessa, and Odessa really needs it. So do Sumy, and so does Kharkiv. But for Kharkiv, it's like they really need a bunch of phenomenal air defense complexes, and I don't mean like, modern-ish. I mean very modern, in order to be able to help them significantly because of their proximity to Russia's border. According to the Washington Post, the Kremlin planned to utilize the Voice of Europe website as a platform to promote Viktor Medvedchuk's Another Ukraine. Documents obtained by Czech intelligence revealed that Voice of Europe was initially linked with the Russian propaganda operation launched in January 2023 by Sergei Kirienko, the first deputy head of the presidential administration. This operation aimed to bolster Medvedchuk's support in Ukraine and position him as a viable replacement for President Volodymyr Zelensky. The campaign, known as Another Ukraine, sought to present Medvedchuk as the head of a government in exile, advocating peace talks as an alternative to nuclear war. Medvedchuk is the guy who was arrested in Ukraine as a treasoner, and he is like, him and Putin have familial relationships, because I think Putin is the godfather to Medvedchuk's children. Or Medvedchuk is the godfather to Putin's children, something like that. But yeah, he was the guy whose wife was like wearing a shawl on her head, and because she was speaking to the Turkish president, and everyone was making fun of her, because she was basically asking Erdogan to interfere and bring Medvedchuk to Russia. She fled to Russia from the beginning of the war, and full-scale war. And also Medvedchuk is the guy who was exchanged for the Azov generals and like 200 Azov POWs when Russia was refusing to give them back. So yeah, he was quite an asset to Russia. Voice of Europe's activities extended beyond spreading Kremlin propaganda in Europe. Managed by Medvedchuk's associate Artem Marchevsky, the platform was also utilized for transferring funds to pay pro-Russian politicians and figures worldwide. The investigation underscores the broader efforts by the Kremlin to influence political dynamics in Ukraine and beyond through covert propaganda and financial channels. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I mention every single time, that, Russian propaganda is everywhere, and we need to be so careful, because it's in the places you would never expect it to be. Russians own newspapers. Russians own newspapers covertly. Russians own channels. Russians are on boards of channels and large media. Russians infiltrate the New York Times. Russians infiltrate everything. So that's why even your everyday Russian, not oligarchs, are spies and shills, and they're there to spread propaganda. Russia's propaganda operations are so incredibly large, probably some of the most intricate and most successful in the world. After the Russian strikes on March 23rd, Kharkiv lost its own power generation, according to Mayor Ihor Terekhov in an interview with ERR. The energy sector was severely impacted by the airstrikes on March 23rd. None of our power plants are operational, and we are focused on obtaining electricity from other cities. This situation is very difficult. We are on the edge, and we understand it very well, he said. Belgium, currently presiding over the Council of the EU, is urging EU member states to contemplate the option of stripping Hungary of its voting rights. If you don't know, Hungary is about to take presidency of the EU Council. Belgium's Foreign Minister, Aja Labib, has proposed a motion of no confidence against Budapest under Article 7 of the EU Treaty. This drastic measure could potentially lead to the suspension of Hungary's voting rights within the EU. Concerns are heightened as Hungary is set to assume the EU presidency next month. This would afford Budapest greater influence in setting the agenda and priorities for the next 6 months, despite Prime Minister Orbán's ongoing obstruction of EU decision-making on critical issues. That's the thing. It cannot happen. And honestly, I think they will trigger Article 7 because Hungary has been using its right of veto, abusing it. Hungary has been blackmailing the EU, basically asking for money over ridiculous things in exchange for them voting with the rest of the EU on issues that are anti-Russian, obviously, that are active measures against the Russian invasion and Russian influence. And we all know that Orbán is a Russian shill. We all know what Hungary's position is. So yeah, I think that that's something that needs to happen, and I honestly foresee it happening. Hungary has not yet made a decision regarding its participation in the peace summit planned in Switzerland, according to Foreign Minister Sciarto. Of course, why would they? They're not interested in peace. They're interested in Russia's agenda being reached. We respect the Swiss efforts to achieve peace. However, the question remains whether a peace conference is meaningful in the absence of warring parties, he stated. Yeah. Okay. I think Europe needs an exorcism from Orbán and his government. Ukraine will ask its allies to expend the scope of Western weapons of use of Western weapons in Russia, Foreign Minister Kuleba reported. Last week, the main countries supplying Western weapons to Ukraine, including the United States, France, and Germany, declared that Ukrainian armed forces have the legal right to carry out military strikes on Russian territory. Kyiv's allies, however, have left some important restrictions in place. U.S. authorities are reportedly still unwilling to authorize ATACMS missile strikes. It has also been reported that strikes with Western weapons will be allowed only in Russian border areas. I mean, Siberia is quite close to the Ukrainian border, right? That's where a lot of factories are. So it's very important to be able to strike deep into the Russian territory because a lot of Russia's factories that manufacture their war equipment are far into Russia. And also, it's like, the allies are acting as if they authorize this to Ukraine, Ukraine is going to go bombing Russian civilians. Like, no, we still have to follow international law, and we will. So it's just quite a stupid situation, to be honest. The upper house of the Swiss parliament has rejected the allocation of 5.58 billion in aid to Ukraine on the grounds that this plan violates borrowing limits in a neutral country, Reuters reports. Switzerland. I have a lot of issues with Switzerland and its neutrality because they're not really neutral. I know they're trying to keep it professional and they're saying that they're neutral and professional, but at the same time, they have literally kept the Nazi money intact during World War II, and they're not necessarily being neutral. They're making very non-neutral decisions because they're making decisions that favor aggressors in most conflicts while pretending to be neutral. Don't like it. Students of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy won the most prestigious international public law competition. We're going to go over that again. Students of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy have won the most prestigious international public law competition in Europe, the Telders International Law Moot Court Competition. The winning team members are Anastasia Shashkevich, Anna Tymoshenko, Vladislav Levchuk, and Vladislav Mikhailchenko. Under the guidance of faculty graduates Volodymyr Hrishko and Maria Stolbova, they also received awards for Best Plaintiff's Memorandum and Best Oral Position. The competition was held in The Hague, the capital of international law, with the final round taking place in the Palace of Justice at the UN International Court of Justice. Notably, Ukraine has won the international rounds twice in the 47-year history of the competition. Both times both times by the students of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy in 2016 and 2024. Hey, my wife is a Kyiv-Mohyla grad. Yeah, it's one of the best universities in Ukraine, and it's really cool that they're being noticed at on the international arena. So the three best law faculties in Ukraine are Kyiv-Mohyla, Shevchenko National University, and Ivan Franko National University. Ivan Franko is in Lviv, Shevchenko is in Kyiv, and Kyiv-Mohyla is obviously in Kyiv, as you know, as the academy states. Or also, Kyiv-Mohyla Academy is the oldest university in Ukraine. It's the absolute oldest university in Ukraine, and it's been around since like almost the founding times. I think Kyiv-Mohyla Academy is older than Russia is. Actually, let's check that. I'm pretty sure it is. Let's see. Kyiv-Mohyla Academy was founded in 1615. Moscow Okay, well, the first mention of Moscow is 1147, but it's before Russia had literacy. So there we have it. Non-Western countries should be interested in establishing peace in Ukraine, says historian and futurist Yuval Harari in a column for The Economist. As military blocs spread around the world, tensions on trade routes increase and trade itself declines. As tensions rise between the warring blocs, the likelihood of a small spark igniting the global conflagration of World War III increases. A nuclear war would endanger hundreds of millions of people in neutral countries. But humanity also faces threats from climate change and artificial intelligence out of control. If peace does not return to Ukraine soon, most likely everyone will suffer, even those who live thousands of kilometers from Kyiv, Harari writes. He notes that if the taboo on imperial conquest is broken, even states whose independence and borders have long been internationally recognized will face the risk of invasion. To prevent a new era of imperialism, leadership is needed in many directions, Harari emphasizes. The future peace summit on Ukraine can lay the groundwork for two very important steps. First, European countries should firmly commit to supporting Ukraine, regardless of how long the war lasts. The continuation of the war threatens to turn Russia into vassal of China. But if Putin thinks that the Europeans are tired of supporting Ukraine, he will prolong the war, hoping to completely conquer the country. The second important step is to strengthen the leadership of non-European countries, which must defend the international order not only to challenge the rotting West, but for their own benefit. This will require countries like Brazil and India to sacrifice their political capital and take risks. It will be costly, but the price of inaction will be much higher. I really want to make a video on this to summarize this and make it more understandable for people, because this is a really good analysis as to why the Eastern countries, or anyone who's not in the West, should understand why this doesn't just concern the Western world, and why this war and Russian invasion and generally imperialist conquests are so detrimental to the world. That's literally the backstory to the Fallout series, the resource wars. I mean, we are in resource wars, to be honest. We are, and we have been for a while. It's like we're sort of like, well, there are very wealthy countries competing who has the most resources, right? Then there are countries that are not nearly as wealthy suffering from that. And in general, once we start kind of I'm trying to phrase it correctly. Once we dismiss situations that put us in a worse position, especially with the smaller countries or less fortunate countries, then we ourselves are going to start running out of resources that we are robbing them of. And then that's going to create a lot more tensions and, real life fallout. Also, that's all I have for you for tonight. It is 2:10 a.m. and I need to make a phone call at 3 a.m. and it's an important one. Woohoo! So I need to prepare for that before I pass out. So I shall see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much to everyone. And Kat, I will check. Thank you so much. Sorry, I saw the comment. I almost forgot to respond. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And thank you for being here. And thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting my country. And of course, thank you for everything you do. Bye. Thank you, Chanel.